Hi, I'm Peggy Farron, and we are live with the Understand Photography Show, where we talk about travel, nature, and fine art photography. Welcome to episode number 100. Woo! We made it to 100 episodes. And we are so lucky because our very first guest is also our 100th guest, and that is the fabulous Arthur Morris. And now Artie is going to teach us a lot. You know, he is the premier bird photographer in the world, so we are going to learn a lot from him. But first I got to do my little commercial. Remember, we are live on Facebook at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Fridays, every Friday, okay? So from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the Facebook page. So it's facebook.com/understandphotography. Then on Saturday, we upload the recording to YouTube, and we also upload the audio file as a podcast. So however you listen to podcasts, Stitcher, iTunes, whatever, listen to us. Just do a search under the Understand Photography Show, and you can listen to us in the car. We have our signature class, the 4 weeks to proficiency in photography. The next one doesn't start until September 19th.
I think I need to register for that one.
Yeah, right. Artie says he thinks he needs that one. I don't think so. He could be teaching it. Anyway, it doesn't start till September 19th, but if you sign up before August 31st, it's on sale. All of our online classes are on sale until August 31st, so check out understandphotography.com. Also, while you're there, click on trips. We've got quite a few trips coming up this season. The first one is our ladies only to Mount Dora, Florida. We're going to go up December 5th through the 7th to see the Christmas lights, and we rent a boat, and it's really fun. Anyway, you can go on understandphotography.com and check it all out. So, if you're watching this live, please share the video. It really helps us to get more viewers, and it helps us stay in business. So today my guest is the fabulous Arthur Morris. Thank you for coming.
Peggy, thank you for having me back. I was watching the first episode this morning.
And so was I.
Just to make sure we don't go over the same stuff. And I was very impressed. I couldn't believe how much younger I looked. Had a little bit more hair. But really, if folks want to get to know me, they really need to find that. It's on my blog today.
Okay.
The link you sent me for the better version on
YouTube.
And
yeah, you can go to youtube.com/understandphotography, or you can go to birdsasart.com.
birdsasart-blog.com. The blog is the bomb.
birdsasart-blog.com. And Artie's got the link there. And by the way, I didn't get to my introduction yet, but the end of my introduction is that he blogs almost every day.
Time out.
Go ahead.
When I was here, I was blogging every day, and I even announced a plan to blog every day for the rest of my life. But I came to my senses about 4 or 5 months ago. I started blogging every other day.
I was going to say, you still blog a lot.
Definitely promotes sanity, though. The everyday was really, really pushing it.
I was impressed because he blogged in the car. He wasn't driving, he was riding, but he blogged while he was driving here, or riding here to Naples, Florida. From, where do you live? You live in Central Florida?
Indian Lake Estates, east of Lake Wales.
Okay.
70 miles from the ocean at Vero Beach and 100 miles from Fort DeSoto Park.
Which is your favorite place to photograph birds. I heard that from the last show.
Aside from my backyard.
Besides from your backyard. Anyway, Artie he really is the world's premier bird photographer. He's also one of the top nature photography educators in the world, and you can tell by the thousands of people who follow him and go on his trips that it's definitely worthwhile. You have lots and lots of repeat customers. One of my event photography customers is one of your IPT customers. What does IPT stand for?
Instructional Photo Tour with a hyphen.
Instructional Photo Tour. So,
IPT.
So John Johnson, hi John. He's been on a couple tours with Artie, and he's going on another one soon, I believe. So let's start with the big question that I have. Even though I did read about this on your blog, but you switched from Canon after how many years to Nikon?
Switched after about 34 and a half years.
Holy moly.
Speaking of which, August 7th, 2 days ago, was 35 years with a telephoto lens. So that anniversary came and went. So I didn't start till late. So when I speak to young kids today, and they're like 15 and they're making good pictures, I go, you better be way more famous than me.
If they start that young, because you were in your mid-30s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that from the first show, which I watched today, episode number 1. So why the big switch?
Well, we'll start with the story first. As most of the folks know, or many of them know, I was a Canon Explorer of Light. I was in the first group of 55.
Yeah, and that is an amazing honor.
We went over that in the first program, thanks to Dave Metz and Michael Newler, who founded the program, and then Stephen Inglima. And Stephen never called me. If he had a show for me, he'd email, say, give me a call. So when he called me, I mean, I never dreamed I'd be let go as an explorer. I was positive I'd be an explorer till the day I die, because every blog post was really an advertisement for Canon.
Yeah, and you've got a humongous following.
And I was doing 400 or 500 in a row every day. And then further that, by considering that with my B&H affiliate link, I had sold, at the time, about $4 million worth of Canon lenses and cameras.
Oh my goodness.
So Steve called me, and he was yakking and yakking and yakking, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? And then all of a sudden he just kept yakking, and it dawned on me, I'm going to get let go as an explorer.
Oh, you could feel him leading up to it.
Well, there was no other reason for him to be on the phone. And then I said, Stephen, cut to the chase. And he said, Artie, I'm sorry, I have to let you go as an explorer. Something about I didn't use hair gel, and that's just a joke.
Okay, good.
And I didn't have enough Twitter posts, like 0.
Oh, they want a big following on.
So he apologized, and I decided to take the high road. Thank you. It's been a great 18 years. Canon had been so generous to me, as we talked about in the first show. And I'll just go on my way. And I had always said to myself, if I get let go as an explorer, even though that thought never entered my mind, I guess it did, I'll switch to Nikon in a minute. But I was so comfortable with Canon.
It's hard to switch. You get used to, and everything's backwards on the, or opposite.
Oh God!
Even taking on the lens.
On.
Yeah.
So, of course, you might even figure out, with all the political bullcrap going on in the background, he's told to fire me by his bosses. Soon after that, he was let go.
Oh.
And he was glad. He retired to North Carolina. So I continued to use Canon stuff. And almost, I know a lot of the great Canon photographers, and pretty much all of them were frustrated with the AF performance with Canon with birds in flight.
Okay.
That said, some of my friends, Arash Hazegi, David Salem, Pat Sparkman, they've all made amazing flight pictures with Canon, even hand-holding the 600, just insane stuff.
Wow. And
they made great pictures, just pictures that made me drool. And yet, if you got in a deep conversation with them, yeah, I just nailed this bird. The sensor was right on the bird's neck, every frame, and one was sharp. Or, yeah, I had trees in the background, and it just wouldn't hold. So I was just always thinking that I'm not a very good flight photographer. Although over the years I did, get plenty of great flight pictures.
I was going to say, I've seen a lot of good pictures out of you.
But the consistency was just not there. So you might think, oh my God, I got let go as an explorer. It's the worst thing that could have ever happened. But I mentioned the work of Byron Katie last time. Well, if you question that, it might turn out to be the best thing that ever happened.
Okay.
So in January of 2018, I borrowed a Nikon 200 to 500 and a D5.
Okay.
And I was standing on the cliffs at San Diego at a cloudy morning, and the first bird that I picked up using group autofocus, the 4-dot array, before I even saw the pictures on the laptop, I said, I'm switching.
Wow.
It was just different. It just grabbed and held. None of the bumping the focus business. So then I got back to the room and I looked at the pictures, and I had like 100 pictures, 100 flight images.
Yeah.
and like 99 were razor sharp on the eye. So sharp I couldn't believe it.
Oh my gosh.
And I said,
that's it.
I guess I wasn't that bad after all.
Wow.
So it's funny because I mentioned David Salem and Arash Hazegi and Patrick Sparkman. They've all switched.
Seriously?
So a lot of the top bird photographers are switching. And if you got me in a dark room and you asked me while twisting my arm, did it sort of feel good to stick it to Canon a little bit? I might take the fifth.
So does this mean that you're not a Canon Explorer of Light Emeritus anymore?
Oh no!
Do they take that title
as
from
far
you?
as I know, I'm still a Canon Explorer of Light Emeritus. So that sounds like I got fired before the other show. I may have missed part of that.
Yeah, you did.
Because I thought it was longer.
No, you did. You did.
And this is the first time we're telling the whole story here.
Yeah,
so
no,
anyway,
you didn't go into detail like this.
So then I started shooting flight, and I went to Cayman Brock with my friend Andrew McLaughlin. He was leading a tour, and I went down with a friend. And the pictures I got were just amazing. And brown boobies flying against the water, everyone sharp. And I knew with Canon, if you got one, it would be a miracle. Wow. And just crazy pose where I just go up, bam, get focus, even anticipate focus, and get these super sharp images. So I was impressed. And then as I used it more, once I got over the basic hand holding with the 2 to 500, and I got the 600 f4, and I started using the 80 to 400, I started seeing that there were things about Nikon that I hated.
Okay.
Silly button on the side of the camera that you need to hold to change the AF mode.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So if you're hand holding, you just need 3 hands. You can't do it. And then the biggest problem that I had, we mentioned last time that I love to shoot with long focal length, 600 and 1.4, 2Xs. With the Canon stuff, I made sharp pictures down to a 60th of a second routinely. So I own the Nikon 2X. I've made some sharp pictures, but I don't have the confidence that I had. I own the 1.7, but the big problem with the Nikon, even with the 200 to 500 and a 1.4, where you get above that minimum aperture of 5.6 to 6.3 or 7.1, with the Nikon stuff, 100 times more than with Canon. When you get away from the middle AF point, it can almost be blind. If you have a bird in low contrast, low light, low contrast, and you have a teleconverter on the 1.4 on the 200 to 500, there are times when it just won't focus if you get away from the middle.
Okay.
And then with the 2X, it's even worse. Once you get past 1 away, you have no chance. And Canon was 1,000 times better. Okay,
so for the low light situations, Canon's better.
With big lenses and teleconverters.
Okay, with big lenses and teleconverters.
I'm not going anywhere near it comparing the noise at high ISO levels. I did well with my Canon stuff with the 5D Mark IV.
Okay.
And my body now of choice, what do I got on here? The D850, yeah, that's my body of choice. I thought I took the one with the big grip that gives you 9 frames per second, but this is my backup body.
Okay.
But it'll be fine for a demonstration. So I switched. Do I miss things about Canon? Sure. That close focus of the 100 to 400 where you can focus on your toe while you're standing, so it's a great macro lens.
And what's the equivalent of the Nikon to that lens? 80
the Nikon has an 80 to 400.
80
just
to 400.
To give you an idea of the close focus of the Canon, the Canon focuses to under 1 meter.
No kidding. I had that lens. I didn't even know.
0.98 meters, about 3 feet 2 inches. And I believe the 80 to 400 is somewhere in the 7-foot range.
What a difference.
It's double. Hey, when I had the old Canon 800 5.6, it focused to 45 feet. So.
Oh boy, oh boy.
We're blessed today. So, am I switching back to Canon? Not today, not ever. And
I have to interrupt you because I forgot something in my introduction about this show because we're mixing things up a little bit. And we are going to have prizes to anyone who asks a question or comments in the live feed. So make sure you say hello, say hi, Artie. Heather's going to be paying attention and give us some questions.
Hi, Heather.
And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just realized I forgot to say anything, so if no one comments and then I start giving away prizes, they might get mad at me. So, go ahead.
Do you want to cover one of your questions that you had right now, or you want me to shut up and
No, I want to keep talking.
About the Micro Four Thirds, the mirrorless stuff?
Oh, you want to go through that? That was a
Yeah.
question, I believe, from John Johnson. He wanted to know, would you ever go mirrorless as the technology evolves?
Okay, well, John may be a regular blog reader, but he doesn't read them all because 2 years ago in San Diego,
Busted.
I'm sorry. 2 years ago in San Diego, I played with the OMD system.
Okay.
And then last year, I played with the Fujifilm system, I believe. And they were sort of okay for birds sitting on a rock, but for flight, nearly impossible.
And what do you mean? They just wouldn't focus, or?
Yeah, for birds in flight, I had a myriad problems
Okay.
with the Fujifilm stuff.
Okay. And the Olympus?
And then the Olympus was even worse. I didn't get one flight picture with that.
Wow.
But the hot news on the street now is that the Sony A9 or the A7R2, 20 frames per second, every frame supposedly sharp. So right now my plan is to borrow some Sony stuff for San Diego. So you may go, why are you borrowing all the stuff for San Diego? Because the living is easy. The birds are tame and there's tons of flying pelicans and Brandt's cormorants.
Okay.
So great flight opportunities. And we do have a trip there in January. So folks can find that at the blog and then click on the IPT link.
IPT.
Anyway.
Birdsasart-blog.com and then click on IPT.
We need to go over that at least 25 more times.
I want to make sure everybody knows it.
Birdsasart-blog.com. Anyway, I was in Memphis last week speaking at Memphis Photo Expo 2018 for Bedford's Camera, and they're another affiliate of mine now. So it's great that folks can have a choice and save a few bucks. Comparison shop, if you will. And that information is on the blog also every day.
And let me just clarify in case somebody doesn't know what that is. If you click on the link, if you want to buy a new lens or a new camera or even any accessories, if you're on Artie's blog and you click on the Bedford link or the B&H link, he'll get a small commission, right?
Yes, and the way we entice people into do that or trick them is to offer free gear advice to anyone who writes to the Sam and Maya's grandpa address. I'll be glad to answer their questions. And then on the way back, we strip them with the links, and they can either use them or not.
And that's Sam and Maya's grandpa at
att.net. But there's a link.
That's a link there too. But anyway, so it doesn't cost you any more money, but it helps him out.
Very much.
For affiliate.
So I was in Memphis, and they had 4 keynote speakers. One from Canon, Lindsay Adler.
Okay.
It was great to see her. I hadn't seen her in 17 years. Wow. She was a NAMPA, North American Nature Photographers Association, high school scholarship student.
I was going to say, she seems young. I didn't know that she was around that long.
Now she's a world famous fashion photographer, shooting covers for Elle all over the world and anything else, and she's incredibly talented.
Yeah.
So she gave a keynote. She gave one of the 5 keynotes.
Wow.
She was sponsored by Canon. And then they had this guy, Patrick Murphy Racy, who I instantly befriended. He shoots a lot of sports and a lot of adventure and a lot of travel and people, I believe. And he was sponsored by Sony.
Okay.
He was a great speaker. Then they had a guy named Lucas Gilman. Did I get that right?
I don't know him.
Yeah, Lucas Gilman, who's a Nikon ambassador.
Okay.
And by the way, one of my dreams is that before I die, I'll be the first person to have been an explorer of light and a Nikon ambassador. The chances of that are about 1 in 100. But it never hurts to dream big. And then the 4th guy was named Elia Locardi, and he was with Fujifilm. And all 4 of the speakers, it was so obvious that they worked their fingers to the bone. It was so obvious that they loved what they did. It was so obvious that they got a tremendous joy out of teaching.
Okay.
And it was so obvious that they were immensely successful and creative and skilled. So a lot of times people are like, oh, I need a new camera. You need to learn to make good pictures with what you have.
Yeah.
Give a damn about your subject and work hard to improve and not be so, you know, there's a lot of people out there, that's one of my big gripes, that think if they spend $11,000 on a lens and $6,000 on a camera body that they're going to be a better photographer. But sit down and study a CD book.
Yeah.
Learn digital exposure. They don't have time for that.
I'm amazed, and you know, you heard my little pitch for that 4 weeks to proficiency in photography, but I have a lot of professional photographers take it secretly. They don't want their customers or anyone to know that they're taking classes because they've never learned the basics. So they're struggling shooting in some, you know, automatic thing like aperture priority or something, and they don't understand how to shoot in manual. You can't, you need to understand it, right? The basics.
One of the things I write for the instructional photo tours is, if you come on an IPT, you're going to go home knowing how to work in manual mode, whether you like it or not, or whether you're scared of it or not.
Yay, I love that. But
on the other hand, there are times, you know, I'm not in the school, if you don't shoot in manual, you're not a real photographer. And there's lots of people that preach that. And I'm going like, When we were in Memphis at night, the easiest thing for me to do was go to TV mode at -4 stops, because we were shooting red, you know, signs with neon red at night.
Oh, okay.
And you still burn the red channel anyway.
That's tough.
And then I was doing zoom blurs.
I love zoom blur.
And then if I went to 1/125th of a second, I could do sharp. So being in auto ISO. So auto ISO, -4 stops, zoom blurs at 1/4 second down to a second. And then if I wanted a sharp sign, just go to shutter speed to 1/125th and make it sharp. So I'm not going to tell you you're not a real photographer if you ever go out. You know, the cameras have different modes. And when I used to use flash on Songbirds, guess what the best mode was?
Aperture?
Program.
Oh, program. I
kept the shutter speed under the sync speed. So, you know, the more you know, the more you can get the most out of your gear.
Agree. I shoot mostly in manual, but I think there are definitely times where you have to shoot in some other mode. I mean, definitely. All right, we're taking a short break because we're going to give our first prize. The first prize is, it's our online class, which is Getting Started with Lightroom. Joe Fitzpatrick put that class together. Although Heather looks like she's busy. Hopefully Heather can pull out somebody, somebody who made a comment or something. It's really, all of our software classes online are short little videos, so you can learn a little at a time, or you can go back and review, and you get to keep it for life. And when I say life, I mean the life of Understand Photography, because when I kick off, I doubt if it's going to be around for long. So who's our first winner? How about Denise Sultan, who I love? She's one of my friends, and she's taken a lot of classes and trips with us. Denise Sultan. All right, you have to write that down because I'll forget. All right, so now, what's the best tripod for bird photography? Best tripod head. Best tripod in general.
For years, the entire world used Gitzo.
Yeah.
Serious photographers with telephoto lenses. And then over the last decade, they just got worse and worse. Their quality control went down the hill. If you brought it anywhere near salt water, they just froze up, which we all do.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we do.
I used to, my new saying is Gitzo tripods, lifetime warranty, as long as you don't take it out of your living room.
Oh, geez.
So I was searching around for some of the off-brand tripods, and I ran into, with the help of my good friend Denise Ippolito, we hooked up with the guys at Enduro Tripod. And for me personally, at about 5'10.5", used to be 5'11.5", I love the Enduro GIT 304L. They make a bigger one, 404L, 404XL, a huge heavy one for people who think that's important or need a really tall tripod. And then they make a couple of slightly lighter ones for people with intermediate telephotos. And as far as tripod heads for telephoto lenses, I've been using the Mongoose 3.6 for probably 13 or 14 years now. We've probably sold 2,000 of them. So if you see somebody on the beach with a mongoose, you
They
know
probably
they're
came
an
from
Artie
you.
Morris groupie. And we're going to talk. A lot of people are going. It's a side-mounting gimbal head, and it's much lighter than anything similar.
Oh,
And we'll say the W word, Wimberley.
uh-huh.
And I'll talk more about the mongoose and the misconceptions when we get to the part on sharpness techniques and misconceptions.
Which, by the way, we are going to save to the end. So you have to stay to the end, because Artie's going to give us some good techniques.
You shouldn't tell them exactly where, just say later.
Later. Well, we only have a half hour. All right, now, in the first show, I asked you about back button focus, and you said you went both ways, and I had never heard anybody's, I know, that's but you used both the shutter button and the back button to focus, and you could go back and forth.
At the time of the show, I was going back and forth, and I decided to go to shutter button AF all the time,
Okay.
staying in AI servo, and with both Canon and Nikon, I came up with a very simple way to lock the focus. You can go into your custom function menus, or you can email me, whichever system you have, and you can be in AI servo AF, use the shutter button to focus, and then by pushing a button, for Nikon I actually use the AF on button. I did the same exact thing with Canon. I programmed the AF on button to be AF lock.
Ah.
So even though I'm in servo, I focus on the bird. If a small bird lands and it's far away and it's in the corner of the frame, I want to get him in the corner of the frame, I just focus with AI servo, hold down the AF on button, recompose. It's just like being in one shot. So I never go to, how did that happen? I never go to one shot
So
AF. It's always in AI servo.
now when you push that button, do you have to hold the button down, or you just push it once and it locks
If you
it?
want to be effectively in one shot, you have a little bird in the corner of the frame.
Uh-huh.
You focus on it, you hold the button, and you must keep it.
You have to
You
hold it,
recompose. Because if the bird moves, you start over again.
Yeah, because you can't do focus recompose in AI servo normally.
Normally, but you can do
But you
focus
can.
lock. That's actually a trick that Jim Niger taught me. He did an ebook for us called Flight School.
Okay.
And that's the Jim Niger trick. Just focus lock. It's really the opposite of rear button.
Okay. Yeah, I'm probably going to go back. It's been really. I tried it for 4 weeks
Yeah, switching
now.
is suicidal.
And it's hard.
Actually, it was the one I talked about on the first show where this pelican took off right at me, and I went bam, 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 and every shot was like 10 miles out of focus because I forgot I was in rear focus.
Yeah, that's why I did it when I was on my trip, because it wasn't any customer pictures. But now I'm back working, and I don't know. We'll see. All right, I got another question. This one's from Jan Meadis, who I really owe her, because she wanted to be in the studio audience, and I forgot to tell her she could be. Anyway, when you are in the right position, light is right, camera is ready, bird in focus, how do you get the exact right moment that is the most unusual of all, not capturing something anyone else would see or captures?
Number one, you pay attention.
Okay. And what do you mean by that?
You have to concentrate. I mean, 1,000 times in my career, I've decided to unnecessarily move my tripod 1 inch or scratch my ear.
Oh.
And then you go, damn, and there it was. But that said, there's a lot to knowing your subject's life and habits.
Yeah, you talked about that in the
So you
first
can
show.
anticipate what they might do. I'm trying to think of a good example.
Because you started as a birder before being
Yeah,
a bird photographer,
I said
right?
to somebody the other day, if you take someone who's a birder and you teach them photography versus taking a person who's a great photographer doing other stuff and try to teach them birds, in a year or two, the birder should be ahead unless they're really dumb, especially with digital,
Yeah,
which is so easy compared to film.
yeah, because we can see the back of the camera. But yeah, you
So-
talked a lot about behavior and learning what they were going to do. And
One of the things I've said for the last 15 years, if you take 9 photographers, and I'll do this, take 9 photographers, there's a beautiful bird just sitting there 30 feet away. Okay, you 9 people, pick your best spot. Get set up on the bird, and I'll be the last one in. And then I'll pick my spot and get set up. There's sort of this almost mystical, mythical thing about the connection to the subject. So my belief is that even if I let everybody pick the best spot ahead of me, all 9, I believe 9 times out of 10 I'm going to get the best shot.
because you know
By being connected to the bird and aware of little subtle cues that come after 44 years of watching birds.
Now, if somebody wanted a cram course on bird behavior, would they study, like, okay, here we have specific birds that are, you know, pretty white herons,
you got to go to the beach and you got to put in the time.
and just be out there.
Be out there.
And bird books to read, or
For behavior, I mean, you could,
do you have
study-
that stuff in your book?
we teach you how to anticipate behaviors in the CD book, The Art of Bird Photography 2. That was the follow-up to the first book.
Oh, I see.
But a lot of that stuff you're going to get best by joining an instructional photo tour.
Okay.
For example, I mentioned our San Diego tour. The money shot there is the pelican doing the head throw, which in Florida they almost never do.
I don't,
You're
yeah.
not going to make a living photographing Florida brown pelicans doing head throws. So the big attraction for San Diego is in La Jolla, the birds are so ridiculously tame, I can get this close easily.
Oh my gosh.
Number 2, in breeding season, from mid-December through mid-February, the base of the lower mandible gets to be fire engine red and olive green.
Ooh.
And then they do this head throw thing where they throw their head back, and after studying them for a million years, I've started to get a handle on little cues of what behavior might precede that.
Okay.
Sometimes they do this thing called a bill cleaning, where it's really ugly. They pull their lower mandible, the bill pouch, down over their distended neck, and they raise their upper mandible. So it's like you're seeing their
inside of their mouth.
the inside of their
or
mouth,
whatever.
and it's really ugly. And about 80% of the time when they do that, they're going to go
And flip their head back.
and do the head throw. And then the head throw is a super challenge because you don't know whether to be in horizontal or vertical, and half the time you're going to clip. So we try to teach people which is the best AF mode to use. For Canon, I loved center large zone
Okay.
for that because you had leeway. And then, of course, the best tip of all is zoom a little wider than you normally would.
Yeah. Yeah.
After you get tired 86 times of
Missing,
clipping the bill
the
tip,
head.
clipping the back of the head. So universal advice for better flight photography: pan faster.
Pan faster.
Universal advice for better action photography with the zoom lens: zoom wider. They seem so simple, but after 35 years, I don't always do it. You get greedy.
You think, oh, I can go in
Just
tight,
squeeze
and
it in, yeah.
then it just doesn't work. All right, I'm going to ask you another question from John Johnson, who we already picked on today, poor guy. As a photographer who travels the world to photograph birds, what can go wrong on a trip, and how do you compensate?
Let's see.
You must have had a lot of things go wrong over the years.
For me personally, accidents are going to happen. Once I was in San Diego at La Jolla, and it was getting warm, so I took my 1.4 teleconverter off. I didn't need it, and I put it in a wool hat. And I put it down on the rock, on the cliff. And then a few minutes later, I needed the wool hat, which I picked up. and watch the $500 teleconverter roll downhill.
Oh.
And then most recently, I was in the UK. We have this amazingly wonderful trip for puffins and gannets, and next year we're going to do red kites. It's about a 12-day trip. We did spectacularly well this year.
Yeah, Jackie McCurdy went this year, or last year, I
Yes,
forget.
Jackie and her sister.
Artists, yeah.
And we were in the dunes, and there was one beautiful wildflower, and then there was one beautiful castle. So I was using the Nikon 70-200 f4 with the teleconverter to do the flower. And my webmaster and our bus driver and co-leader for the trip, Peter Kess from Switzerland, who's a Dutchman, he was trying to do a wide-angle shot of the flower in the foreground with the castle.
Okay.
So I figured I would be really smart, because Peter's a good friend and he likes pictures of himself, that I would take the teleconverter off and go wide and get Peter and the blossom and the castle.
Right.
And that all worked well until the next morning.
Because you left it there.
Teleconverter was gone. We went back to the dunes. We never found it.
Oh my God.
Easy come. And then you talk about accidents. There was a nice lady. She wasn't much of a photographer, but she came on the trip to be with her husband. And she was walking in the parking lot, and she tripped on a curb, and it looked like somebody just took a fillet knife and just opened up the palm of her hand. So in one of the most amazing scenes that I've come across in my entire career, I walked by this hotel, the motel room where we were in Bridlington. We go to Bempton Cliffs, and there is Eugen Dolan, who is a neurosurgeon.
Okay.
And he is sitting in a chair, and he's got his headlamp on, and there's other people holding up lights. And then he had a doctor, Billy Snell, was assisting him, and he's stitching up this hand, so the lady didn't have to go to the emergency room.
So who? I mean, I don't know who he is, but was he just there, or was
He
he
was
part of
he
your?
was a participant.
Oh my God.
And craziest part of all is that when we're in the airport, you talk about crazy things that happen. My friend Anita North is there, and I go, "Hi everybody, this is Anita, and this is Eugen Dolan and his wife Marietta." And they're looking at each other. Eugen taught Anita brain surgery like 45 years ago.
Oh.
And they hadn't seen each other in like 35 years.
Oh my God.
So it's freakish. But yeah, stuff happens, and you just
deal.
You know, having gone, this is new since we spoke last. In March of, I think, 17, yeah. I was privileged to go to the School for the Work with that lady Byron Katie. The 9-day School for the Work, where you totally immerse yourself. That's when I stopped blogging every day. And the
when
work
did you
is
do that? When?
March of 2017. So the work is basically a way to look at the things that upset us.
Okay.
What's pissing you off? Write it down, ask 4 questions, do the turnarounds and see if they could be more true. And for me, you know, that was the thing that saved me from 7 years of sobbing with Elaine's death. And it's a tool that I try to use every day. Sometimes it's hard to tell.
Wow.
But it can bring you more peace. The lady's name is Byron Katie.
And so she had a week-long workshop, or is it called a workshop, I guess, or?
It's the School for the Work. She does 1 or 2 every year. She's super popular in Europe. And this one, excuse me, was taught at the Ojai Inn.
Ah.
Very pricey. And there were about 600 or 700 of us paying.
Oh my gosh.
About $7,000 for the week, but everybody went home happy.
Wow.
And if not, you could do the work on it.
But
one of the reasons I went, the work had been so helpful to me healing over Elaine's death, that I wanted to give Katie a hug and tell her a story about a dream that I was having that I quit having once I did the work. And she's like this mythical, almost surreal. She sits up there in black velvet with like a glow around her, And she's just the most gentle. People come up to her sobbing, and she goes, "Tell us, darling." It was a great experience.
So you felt it was worth the money for sure.
Oh, 1,000 times over. I want to go back, maybe to a different event. I definitely want to see Katie again and find some more peace.
That's awesome. I love that.
www.thework.com. Doesn't
The
get
Work,
any easier.
not
The Work.
no plural.
No nothing.
Okay, thework.com. All right, time for another prize. Okay, this time we're going to give away our book, Florida Photo Spots, Naples and Collier County. Joe Fitzpatrick and I put together a guidebook for this area. Actually, we're working on our second book, which will be Lee County in Fort Myers, Sanibel area. But this book is all about Naples and Collier County and the Western Everglades. So, drum roll, brrrr. I can't do a drum roll. Rick Tango. Oh, we love Rick Tango too. I finally got to meet him face to face. I was one of the speakers at the New England Camera Club conference, and Rick came and introduced himself.
NECCC.
NECCC.org. So
Been
yeah,
there, done that.
that was exciting for me.
It's great.
It was a great conference. Okay, let's see. From Rick Funston, what are the top 5 specific challenges in shooting birds? Can you see my teleprompter, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, because we have a new set, we have a new way of doing things, so now this is good because then you can kind of see. And Rick goes through a bunch of different things, like what are the challenges? Is it the skittish nature
Well,
of the
I took a good look at those, and Rick did a good job of answering his own questions. So I'll paraphrase him by saying, yeah, the birds have wings. So you're trying to get close. You want to respect their life. The last thing you want to do is make the bird fly away, because then you're not going to get a picture. And when they do fly away, they're generally going to go the other way, unless you have a strong wind behind you. And the birds sit where they want to sit. So if they're sitting in a crappy place, you're not going to get a good picture. So some of the stuff we do on the IPTs is try to get people to see the difference between the good situations and the bad. The puffin trip is a perfect example.
Okay.
We're surrounded by puffins 10 and 15 feet away, hundreds of them. And people die to photograph a puffin, so it's easy to just point anywhere and take a picture. But find one with its feet showing on a nice rock with a blue water background or a green background, huge difference. Then I had another place to go and I forget.
So on the puffin tour, do you...
Oh, I remember.
Go ahead.
One of the huge things people learn on the IPTs are the importance of evaluating the sky conditions and the wind direction.
Oh.
That's like one of the #1 factors in bird photography, more important than the quality of light, the time of day, anything.
Is the wind direction.
If you're up in the morning early and the sun is rising in the southeast and the wind is from the northwest, good day maybe to stay home and work on the computer, because the birds are going to be landing into the wind. So if the sun is at your back, they're flying away from you, they take off away from you, and even if they land on the beach, they're going to be facing away. But you need to be careful, because I did that when we were at Bempton Cliffs, and I said, east wind in the morning with the sun rising in the east out over the ocean, that's generally fantastic, except we're on a cliff looking right into the sun. And I said, I'm staying in this morning.
Wow. Just get a few...
It was dead clear. So the people come back and everybody's so happy because they were photographing the gannets, and out of nowhere, I mean, I was walking on the beach and I didn't see a thing. It was just blue sky everywhere. So I took a health walk, and a fog bank mysteriously appeared, and they got great ethereal shots.
Oh,
so
man.
they were happy to let me know and show me all the pictures.
That you didn't get.
So, God or whoever's in charge, reality has tried to teach me this lesson many times over the years. You cannot take a picture sitting on the ship, sitting in your living room, or sitting in a hotel room. So even when it's terrible, you might want to get
You
out
might want to
there.
be out there.
Learn something.
That's awesome. All right, what else does he have in here? Well, this is kind of just general tips. What about, do you have a minimum length of lens that you think somebody should have if they're into bird photography?
The minimum length of lens for bird and nature photography is Canon's 8mm to 15mm fisheye. I've made some good bird pictures and habitat pictures with that and the fisheye lens. Made some beautiful fisheye stuff at Fort DeSoto. We have a Fort DeSoto trip coming up.
That's coming
at
up
the end
soon.
of September. I just planned that one the other day.
September. Okay, yeah, because I was on your blog.
So
I
yeah,
saw.
the best lens for a given photograph is the lens you have in your hand. And in general, with bird photography, if you don't bring your biggest lens or have it close at hand, you're going to regret it. And no matter how long your longest lens is, you're going to wish you had a longer lens. But that said, you know, one of my favorite pictures from Japan is a 16 to 35 image of a single whooper swan with black water and beautiful sky. So, you know, any focal length is great. And
I guess it depends on the situation.
I've
If
been
the bird's far away, you need a long lens. If the bird is close.
I've been remiss a little bit. I've been fortunate enough to have been working with physical therapist Amy Novotny for the past almost 3 months, and she'll be traveling with me for the next 9 months. And Amy is killer with a cell phone and great with the wide angle. So she was with us in Norway and Finland and the UK, and she has a blog, Amy's Impressions. There's a link to it in most of my blog posts. And she's opened my eyes by shooting with wider lenses and cell phones. I've even had a few cell phone pictures in my post because it's super educational. So if you're carrying this thing around, do you really want to have a 24 to 120 on your shoulder just in case? But the cell phone can always be there. So I know we have a few minutes extra because,
Yeah.
but I think we need to go.
Okay, we're going to go. Artie is going to give us a sharpness techniques demo. And in the meantime, while he's setting that up, we're going to give away another prize. And this prize is Arthur Morris's book, The Art of Bird Photography, The Complete Guide to Professional Field Techniques. And this is the book that is really the Bible of bird photography. This is, if you're a bird photographer, you need this book. If you're thinking about bird photography, you need this book. So I'm giving you time to make a comment or ask a question on our live feed, because Heather's going to choose between the different people who are making comments and asking questions and things like that. Heather doesn't know who you are. Like all those people are like, oh, Rick and Denise, but she doesn't know you. But I do. I'm on the tripod here. Anyway.
Wouldn't it have been fantastic if I dropped this lens?
Oh my gosh. I have carpet anyway right here.
Thinking. We should
Heather,
be ready
who's
in
it?
about 5 seconds.
Sonia
Durance.
Durance. Am I saying that right? Sonia, you're our winner of Artie Morris's book, The Art of Bird Photography. So we'll get in touch with you after the show to get your information, and we will mail that book to you.
Everybody wants to know about making sharp pictures and what are the secrets. How can you go for 20 years and make sharp pictures with 500, 600, and 600 millimeter lenses with a 2x teleconverter at a 60th of a second, which I did consistently with Canon, a little less consistently with Nikon.
That blows my mind, by the way.
So, the first thing we have to look at is the big misconception.
Okay.
Everybody thinks that if you you stay right where you are, I'm not going to smack you.
Okay.
Everybody thinks that if you get a $2,000, 11-pound tripod from really wrong stuff.
Ooh.
Well, that's just a coincidence. And you get a Wimberley head, the heavier head. And I use Wimberley head for 8 or 10 years. The people at Wimberley are great. They've always been kind to me. And I use their P20 and P30 and P40 plates on all of my intermediate lens that are Arcus was compatible. So they think if you get this giant Wimberley head that weighs about 3 times what a mongoose weighs, and then you get this super humongous tripod, which you can barely carry, and then you get a big wrench, and you tighten everything up. The misconception is that you're going to be so sturdy with a Wimberley and a 11-pound tripod that you have to make sharp pictures. But what people are not realizing is that this is only a mongoose and an Enduro GIT 304L, which is perfect for me.
Okay.
So it's not a super heavy tripod at all. But even if we had the Wimberley here and the GIT 404XL, the Enduro, once you get your hands on that lens, there's a tremendous amount of play, no matter how tight you make it.
Okay.
There's play. There's play between the camera and the lens mount. There's play here. There's torque. So that's the huge myth. So what people are missing is that it's the way you connect to your camera and lens that are going to determine sharpness.
Okay.
So for years people advised doing this. Now that I have a torn rotator cuff, that wouldn't work as well, although I could do it. But for about 20 years now, I've been going to the bottom front of the lens.
Okay.
Like this. I rest my left forearm on the tripod. If I'm usually using a Wimberley, it'll be slightly, my anatomy will be configured a little bit differently, but I'm always holding the lens from below. And then as far back as The Art of Bird Photography, the softcover book, we talked about people putting their face against the viewfinder, pressing their face, and now I will actually push up a little bit here and push up on the camera, just a fraction, and it's almost as if the lens is in a vise.
All right, hold on, because remember, this is also a podcast.
Okay.
So your left hand is towards the front middle of the...
Left forearm against the tripod leg.
Okay. Left hand.
Left hand with the first 2, 3, or 4 fingers, depending on either the front of the lens behind the hood or on the focus ring if need be. But who's manually focusing these days? Not me, almost
Not me.
never. So I'm holding the lens just behind the hood, and then I'm left eye dominant, so my left eye is smack against
So you're
the viewfinder cup,
okay,
bracing it, and
with your face a little bit too.
yeah, with my face, and then just the basics. If you're down in a dangerous shutter speed, you don't want to just plop your tripod on the ground. You want to pull the legs out so they're against the stops. If you're in the sand or mud, you want to dig it in a little bit.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll even do this, lean my left hip to stabilize. So the more stuff
Where did
that's,
you lean your left hip?
depending on the situation
On the tripod
and the
leg?
angle, but lean it against the tripod leg
Oh.
to stabilize. And then, if you do tighten everything up as tight as you can, you are going to make pictures that are more consistently sharp. But what happens when there's action?
Yeah.
You're toast.
I was going to say, how hard would it be
Yeah.
to loosen all that
No,
up?
you can't do it because with all the tripods, there's 2 controls. There's a vertical pan and a horizontal pan, whether you're using a Wimberley or this. And the huge advantage of the Mongoose, aside from its light weight, is that it's a gimbal head. So that, play with that, it's rendered weightless.
Oh yeah, that is nice. Of course, it's up too tall for me.
Yeah, anyway.
So and then the last thing you said was just to kind of lift a little bit, right?
I'm pushing up, yeah.
You're lifting with
I'm
both
generally going to
hands.
keep good tension. I'm going to be pushing up with my left hand and pushing up a little bit with my right hand on the camera body.
And then
So it sort of bows the lens
okay.
up and up. And of course, if I'm shooting at a 2,000th of a second, I don't have to worry about any of that.
But if you're at a 60th,
But when you're at a 60th and 125th, then down into the danger zones.
that blows my mind.
So one
that
of the
blows my mind. It really does. 60th sounds really slow for that kind of stuff.
One of the things that we're going to do, I'm working on a project with Amy. You might have noticed, the really observant people, when I put the tripod up, that I took the time to fiddle with the legs to get the
Level?
bubble
Uh-huh.
centered in the scribed circle on the mongoose. And I would only do that if I were going to be standing in one spot photographing flight. I never do that. If I'm just walking up to the bird and putting the tripod down in the sand, all I'm going to do is do this, and going to finally learned how to do it after 6 months of reaching with my left index finger and
And you're twisting.
bringing up the in-camera level, in viewfinder level.
Oh.
Now here's another stupid thing about Nikon. God forgive me. Why can't they turn the level on and let it be on like in the Canon bodies?
Yeah.
You put the level on, it's in the viewfinder.
It's just there, yeah.
Here you have to press the button every time you turn the camera off. So if I'm just going on a beach and it's rocky or uneven, I'll just get the tripod down and I'll look through the viewfinder, turn the level on, and just level it. So the only time I'm going to center the bubble in the scribed circle is when I'm going to stand in one spot shooting flight for 10 minutes.
Okay.
So anyway, what Amy and I are doing together as a joint project, we're going to do a tripod handling and sharpness technique video
Oh, nice.
from all over the world in the next 6 months, and hopefully have it ready to release in about 6 to 8 months.
Wow.
Because if one question that I get consistently that I have to answer, you better come on an IPT, is, well, how do I make them sharp?
Well, yeah.
So
I mean,
this
that
is
is the hardest part of
This is
bird
the first time
photography.
we've ever shared this publicly and online, so hopefully we'll get
And
lots of people
actually, I've never heard it at all
looking.
on how to hold how to hold it and how to everything, all the
Well, there's
little
lots
details.
of different techniques when you're hand holding and when you're sitting. You know, tremendous amount of the stuff I do is sitting.
Well, because you spend a lot of time out there, right?
Well, not if the bird's over there and you're over here and you walk up to it, the bird's circle of fear might be 60 feet.
Uh-huh.
If you sit right from here and you scooch up with your tripod this big, you might be able to get 30 feet
Okay.
without
see?
doing too much work, or going on your knees, which I can't do right now. Amy's working on that. But if you stand and then you sit and you scooch up half the distance to 30 feet, and then you splay the legs of your tripod and you shorten all the legs, and you get your tripod down flat, which is one of the reasons I hate no center post,
Oh.
and you scooch forward like a Marine, then you might get 15 feet.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, standing is nice, and I don't even like to sit. Amy's doing lots of work on my hips and getting my hips to move, and my shoulder, and but I don't like sitting, but sometimes I need
You
to
just
sit
have to.
for a
Yeah.
good while.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially we were trying to get the roughs in Norway, but that's another story. Hey, let's make a promise for 200.
Oh! Is this what I'm doing? I don't
If
know.
we're both still alive, especially
What do you
me.
mean?
Hey.
Look at you, and you're getting all this physical therapy. You're going to be
Hey, I'm
dancing
doing everything
in
I
the-
can, but there's no guarantees. You better have fun today.
Yeah, that's a good
One
point.
time, I was teaching in Fort Myers, and I had a group for the Southwest Florida IPT. We quit doing that because they've ruined Ding Darling.
Oh.
And I said to the group, hey, you better have fun today. There might be a tractor-trailer truck with your name on it coming down I-75. And this lovely couple burst out crying. And then I talked to them afterwards. Their valedictorian son and his salutatorian girlfriend were going to visit her grandmother, if I have the details right, after graduation. And they were killed instantly in a head-on tractor-trailer
Oh
truck.
my God.
So get out today, take some pictures, enjoy every moment, and have fun.
I have one last question from Heather.
Ooh,
You're
the
going to have to
pants.
feed it to me again because she wanted to know if you're. And who was this question from? The question was, the inspiration for the artwork on those fancy pants you have, was that the inspiration from pictures that you took?
Not at all. I went to the Pribilofs back in prehistoric times, in other words, the days of film. And there was the tour guide was a young man named Ramiel Papish. You can find him on Facebook, Ram, R-A-M Papish, P-A-P-I-S-H. I know because I just chatted with him last few months ago. And he was wearing the same pair of pants, only his were completely in tatters, the faded paint, because he had painted them. And he wanted to get some of my pictures, and I wanted to get some of his pants. So we did a barter, and thus we're born. So I wore them last week in Memphis.
I love them.
And I enjoy it.
They're perfect. And for our audio listeners, you have to go on the YouTube and see his pants. It's youtube.com/understandphotography.
The thing about Ramiel Papish's art, and people like Julie Zickerfus, who I mentioned on the first show, who's an avian artist, she can take a charcoal and sketch in 10 seconds and the bird is alive. You have other people that could study the picture and project the picture and paint over it, and it doesn't look anything like the bird. So some artists Ram was a guide there for a couple of years, so he just knew every bird so well, and he was so skilled that when he painted the birds, I mean, every one of these is alive.
Yeah, that's an awesome.
Alive on the pants, so thank you, Ram.
They did great. Now do a little twirl for us so we can see the back. Because even in the back it's really cool. Love that.
Chin in, shoulders back. I used to walk like this, and Amy's trying to get me to walk like this.
Well, you look very straight up today.
Well, not according to Amy.
All right, now we did spend a little extra time because we had the problem with whatever we had the problem with. Hopefully the YouTube video will splice it together so it'll sound great. But if you missed the live show, I'm not sure which camera to look at. If you missed the live show, remember this will be on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/understandphotography, and also as a podcast. Thank you, Artie Morris, for being our 100th guest. Woo, our 100th show.
You are welcome, and the link will be on the blog in a day or two at www.birdsasart-blog.com. The blog is the bomb, a free photographic education, and as I said, let's do it for 200.
I love that idea. 200.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm Peggy Farron. Thanks for watching the Understand Photography Show, episode 100. Thank you for watching the Understand Photography Show. It would help us immensely if you would click like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Get up!